Welcome to English Learning 101. This is the first of a series of modules which will provide an overview of what makes up an English learning program, along with its federal requirements, from identifying English learners, to instructional program models, to assessment, and beyond. Please note that these modules detail the basics and are not comprehensive in their guidance. Each module will have accompanying documents attached to its section where you will be able to go further in depth. In this introduction module, we will set the stage by answering who are English learners, by briefly reviewing the legislation and court rulings which has shaped the current landscape for English learners, and by reviewing what are districts and schools' legal requirements to ensure English learners receive equal access to educational opportunities. We will then preview the content of the subsequent EL101 modules. First, let's examine English learners in our state. Indiana proudly is home to nearly 120,000 students who speak at least one language other than English, with over 275 different languages represented. Approximately 60,000 students have been formally identified as English learners, roughly 5% of the total student population in the state. Some of these students are immigrants and refugees, though the vast majority of Indiana's English learners were born in the United States. English learners are enrolled in schools in every corner of Indiana and bring rich assets and potential to our classrooms, culturally, linguistically, and academically. In fact, Indiana assessment data shows that students who achieve fluency in English often end up outperforming their native English-speaking peers on state content assessments. Whether a local education agency has one English learner or thousands, they are obligated to meet certain federal requirements for their students. So, who are English learners? The federal definition of an English learner must meet the stipulations indicated here. In short, an English learner is a student who is between ages 3 and 21, is enrolled in elementary or secondary schools, who has indicated speaking a language other than English on the home language survey, and who has demonstrated an English language proficiency below what is deemed fluent by Indiana. This is determined via an assessment of the student's English proficiency in the language domains of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Before delving into specifics of the EL program, it's important to be aware of the legislation and landmark court rulings which have defined equal educational opportunity and the federal requirements for local education agencies as they serve English learners. First is Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which stated that no person in the U.S. shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be denied the benefits of or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. This was the start of equal educational rights for English learners. The Office of Civil Rights interpreted the Civil Rights Act in their 1970 memo, which delineates schools' responsibilities to provide equal educational opportunity to national origin minority group students whose English language proficiency is limited. English learners and their education now fall clearly within the context of the Civil Rights Act. Perhaps the most notable of these events is the Supreme Court case Lau v. Nichols of 1974. The ruling stated, "There is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. For students who do not understand English are effectively foreclosed from any meaningful education." The case reaffirmed that all students in the United States, regardless of native language, have the right to receive a quality education. It also clarified that equality of opportunity does not necessarily mean the same education for every student, but rather the same opportunity to receive an education. An equal education is only possible if students can understand the language of instruction. Schools must now take steps to provide English learners with an instructional program in which they are given equal access to education. The Equal Education Opportunities Act of 1974 then clearly defined what constituted the denial of educational opportunities. The court case Castaneda v. Pickard argued that a school district was segregating students due to race and ethnicity and that the district failed to implement a successful program in which the students could learn English, as required by Lau v. Nichols. The ruling set out a three-prong approach to determine whether schools have taken appropriate action to remedy language deficiencies of English learners. EL programs must be, number 1, based on sound educational theory and pedagogy. Number 2, adequately supported with adequate and effective staff and resources so that the program has a realistic chance of success. And periodically evaluated and, if necessary, revised. Lastly, the Supreme Court ruling of Plyler v. Doe in 1982 stated that schools must enroll and educate children residing in the district, even if they or their parents do not possess legal residency documents. For more details on the impact of the aforementioned and additional legislation, please see Chapter 1 of the EL Guidebook, which is included with this module. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights oversees school districts' broad discretion concerning how to ensure equal educational opportunity for English learners. The Office of Civil Rights does not prescribe a specific intervention strategy or program model that a district must adopt to serve ELs, but provides guidelines to ensure that programs are serving ELs effectively. Local education agencies should identify students as potential English learners, assess students' need for English learner services, develop a program which, in the view of experts in the field, has a reasonable chance for success, ensure that necessary staff, curricular materials, and facilities are in place and used properly, develop appropriate evaluation standards, including program exit criteria for measuring the progress of students, and to assess the success of the program and modify it where needed. Districts and schools are responsible for providing equal opportunity and meeting federal requirements for English learner students. These requirements are detailed throughout the ensuing EL101 modules. Part 2 will detail the home language survey, the first key component in identifying English learners. Part 3 will cover the next steps in identification, administering and interpreting the results of a placement test. In Part 4, the next steps after identifying an English learner are covered: notifying parents, creating the individualized learning plan, and designing and providing English language development services. Part 5 will examine funding sources to assist in EL program implementation. Part 6 will give an overview of the English language development standards and its framework provided by WIDA. Next, in Part 7, assessment of ELs will be covered in depth, including WIDA's English proficiency assessments and state testing accommodations. In Part 8, the requirements for formally monitoring and exit requirements are reviewed, as well as the process to re-enter a student into an EL program after exiting if necessary. Next, Part 9 will cover parent and family rights with regards to EL programming and effective communication, as well as best practice in engaging EL families. Part 10 will give an overview of issues surrounding English learners with disabilities. And lastly, in Part 11, issues surrounding ELs at the secondary level, including credit transfer and the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency, and graduation options will be covered. We hope you will find the following EL101 modules useful as you navigate the components and requirements of the EL program. Please refer to the documents accompanying the modules for additional information and guidance. As always, if you have any questions, please contact a member of our English Learner team at the Indiana Department of Education. Thank you.